So thank you for joining us today, Friday, June 13th, Friday the 13th, and for our coffee break here. And we are going to be telling a little bit of a story here about our insiders panel. Fun fact, this is actually our 40th coffee break that we have done. And it is very serendipitous because this is our 40th anniversary. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary as a firm, and actually our anniversary date is this Sunday, the 15th. So that worked out very well. We did not plan that. So 40th coffee break and our 40th year anniversary. I'm very excited to be joined by Eric Sondergeld, who is our managing director. And he and I are going to tell you a little bit about Greenwald's Insiders Panel, a little bit about the history, some information about who insiders are, some fun facts about them, and talk a little bit about why this was really an important initiative for us at Greenwald. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a history lesson. Really distribution in terms of sort of our thinking about our insiders panel as a panel of distribution professionals. So people who sell or place products across the health and wealth and benefits continuum. Distribution really has been in our DNA. I went digging back in files, and the first study that I could find was from 1987, and it was a study with life insurance sellers. It was a mail survey. So we've been doing this for a very long time. And over time, as we worked with different clients, we actually expanded and added a variety of different audiences. So agents, fund and investment managers, financial advisors, brokers, benefit advisors, consultants. These are all people that we consider part of the distribution chain and that live within our insiders. So we had been doing this for decades. We've been doing research with these audiences for decades, since the 80s. We've done so much research, in fact, with our financial advisor audience, that sort of by the time we reached about the mid 2010s, we essentially had what we called internally our de facto panel. We had a panel of advisors that we know we could tap for research. But honestly, over the 2010s, we sort of faced a moment of challenge. It was a building moment. It wasn't just one thing, but it was a deterioration of quality. So when we partnered with sample providers externally to try to find distribution professionals, the agents, the advisors, the brokers, the consultants that are shown on the screen here, we found it increasingly difficult to find quality respondents, to find people to participate in our research that actually were who they said they were. So we had this challenge, and we chatted internally. We already had this great resource of our de facto advisor panel. And in 2019, we decided that we were going to invest some time and money into coming up with a better way to reach benefits brokers and consultants. That's inclusive of health insurance as well. We knew our clients needed access to this audience. We knew that they needed data that they could trust. It was really important to us to provide that to our clients. So we knew we had to do something different just because of the challenges we were facing. So in that particular iteration in 2019 of the insiders, we really honed in or focused very specifically on benefits providers and health insurance sellers. And I will segue to Eric to talk a little bit about what happened in 2022, but we learned a lot from that initiative in 2019 in trying to sort of start the insiders. But really in 2022, following our rebrand to Greenwald Research, which is what you know us as today, we took a step back and tried to make a different decision. And Eric, I'll turn it over to you to talk about 2022 and sort of the conversations we had as we were envisioning sort of Insiders 2.0, which became our Insiders panel.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everybody. Lisa, if you could maybe go to the next slide while I'm talking about this. Back in, I think it was May of 2022, even the next, there we go. A group of us got together because we had decided we wanted to pursue building out a panel of distributors, of the individuals involved in recommending or advising or otherwise placing business across the continuum that Lisa just described. And a really important question we asked ourselves during that meeting was, should we pick a particular type of person who does a certain type of business, or should we go broad? And we discussed that for a bit, and we decided let's go broad. Let's allow anybody in who kind of fits across, who's in the value chain across both health and wealth, retail, employee benefits / healthcare, et cetera. And little did we know how good of a decision that turned out to be. And so on this slide, starting on the left-hand side, when we recruit someone into the panel, we have them fill out what we call an intake survey that gathers a lot of information about them, and that information allows us to categorize them according to different types of business. So on the left, there are 7, but we primarily use 6 segments: the individual insurance, retirement investments, and health insurance, and then similar versions on the group or employer side. So retirement plans and investments, group benefits, non-health, and group health insurance. In the middle, you see individual P&C, because we want to know about their entire practice, but we do not currently target people that only recommend or sell P&C products to their clients. But it's helpful to know if that's something that they do. And as you can see, the percentages on that left-hand chart add up to well more than 100%. In fact, on average, our insiders are in 3.7 of these segments or businesses. And the chart on the right-hand side just shows you how stark that reality is. In fact, if we wanted to go after people that were in just one segment, our current panel, that only represents 4% of our panel. In fact, there are more 7-trick ponies than 1-trick ponies in our panel. But most of them are, in 2, 3, 4, or more business lines, according to this. And what's also interesting, just a couple tidbits here, is that the more segments they're in, the higher their earnings. The longer they've been in business, those things are obviously related. They tend to be operating in more than one state, which most of our insiders are. They tend to be more racially diverse, as well as they tend to be, there's more males as that increases as well.
Thanks, Eric. So just want to give you a little flavor of who our insiders are. So on average, our insiders are middle-aged. They're 54 years old. They're really experienced. 70% have been in their role in this business for 15 years or more. They're really well compensated. Their gross income is north of $350,000 on average. And they are not very diverse. They tend to be, for the most part, white men. 83% are non-Hispanic white, 80% are male. In terms of the firms in which they are situated, it is across the spectrum. So we see a little less than half have some sort of ownership stake in the firm that they work for. But we do see a wide variety in terms of the size of the firm. Everything from single proprietor, John Doe has his shingle outside of his probably not even building anymore, but in his basement working virtually, to insiders that are embedded in much larger firms of 500 or more employees.
So when you, at first glance, when you look at this, and particularly if you're not familiar with the makeup of these types of professionals, it might seem terrible that they're as old as they are, and so many of them are white and male. However, that's actually what distribution looks like in our industry today. In fact, when we look at other sources, for example, the makeup of those who have the CFP designation and other sources, we get very similar profiles from an age, uh, uh, race, and gender perspective. We also have been told by some of our clients that the age makeup of our panel matches really closely. Well, like when we do a survey for them or something, matches very closely to the profile of those that are selling their product. So we actually think our panel has decent representation. Unfortunately, there's no true, as I would say, oracle that would say this is exactly what the makeup of people in this business is. There's no place to find that perfect answer, but I think we're not far off.
Apologies for the cat tail going through my video. I think that's something that the industry in general is grappling with. We do hear a lot from our clients about the lack of diversity in distribution professionals. We do know from some of the work that we do with consumers that they do like to talk to someone that looks like them. And so having a little bit more of a diverse distribution workforce might be something that is on the radar of many of the people on this call.
And that desire is actually highest among Black or African American consumers. And this is something we would love to find ways to partner with other organizations to leverage our panel, to leverage research to help diversify this industry of sales and otherwise people in this channel.
So we put together a couple of vignettes for you to sort of give you a flavor of number one, who is an insider, give you an example, tell you a story about our insiders, but also to sort of point out some of the pitfalls that we find can arise when we're trying to reach this audience and help our clients speak to them in a way that meets them where they are.
So the first one is Tom. He's 54, been in business for 20 years. He's part of a larger firm, so he doesn't own it. They have 100 or more employees. He describes himself as a financial advisor. So if you met him on the street and said, Tom, what do you do for a living? He'd say, I'm a financial advisor. Now, when we, let's say we're doing a retail survey or we're recruiting for in-depth interviews, we might try to categorize him under some of the ways that industry players think about financial professionals. And he would typically classify himself as an independent broker-dealer representative, but he wouldn't tell his clients that. He wouldn't tell you on the street that. That's not how he identifies. He's in 4 of our segments. So he's in individual insurance, individual investments, but he's also in 2 of the group ones: group benefits, non-health, and group retirement and investments. Most of his sales are retail, but he also does some group or benefits work across a variety of products. So it's obvious to see from the charts at the bottom, he is not a one-trick pony. In fact, if he's doing investment business for retail clients, there's a good chance he's doing that on a fee basis. And so the provider, the manufacturer of those products might think of him as an RIA. Now then he might sell, say, an annuity, and if it's a variable annuity, he might be considered based upon how the business is coming through as an independent broker-dealer rep, because maybe he's affiliated with an independent broker-dealer. However, when he's recommending, say, or selling a retirement plan, he might be thought of as a retirement plan advisor or a consultant, depending on the size of the plan. And similarly, when he's recommending employee benefits, he might be thought of as an employee benefits broker. So the way that manufacturers think about distribution and about those that are actually out there recommending their products and services is really just their view. It's not the view of the actual representatives that actually find themselves in parts of various channels that manufacturers need to understand because they have to connect their product or service with the end user of that service, and that's where people like Tom come into play. But he plays many roles in doing that. But to him, he's still Tom, a financial advisor.
So to give a little bit of a different flavor, we'd like you to also meet John. John is 56 years old. He owns his firm and it has 7 employees. He's been in the business for 23 years and he's licensed to sell in 5 states. If you met him on the street, John would say, I'm a broker. But if we were doing a survey with him or perhaps screening him for an IDI and asked him to sort of classify in terms of a set of industry words that carriers or manufacturers might use, he would say, I'm an independent insurance agent, might be the best way that he would describe himself. He tends to focus on the group market. 84% of his book or his total sort of sales portfolio is from group sales or employer sales, but he still has some individual or retail sales there. He does have more of a health and benefits focus in terms of the types of products that he sells or places. But you can also see from the chart at the bottom that he has some income from other product types. So he's not holistically selling and placing group health, 100% of his income from group health. He is getting income from other products like group benefits products, such as a life insurance or a disability product, investments, and other things. So those are sort of Tom and John, both insiders, both distribution professionals, both someone that our clients, that carriers, that manufacturers might be interested in speaking to, but the profile of who they are and what they do is a little bit different.
And the nice thing is let's just say that a company was looking to do a survey or do interviews of people that recommend annuities to their clients. So both John and Tom meet that definition. However, John, I mean the annuity, it's the purple slice on the top of that first bar is very narrow. So it may be that that particular company is looking to talk with people where retail or their annuity practice is much more significant than that, or they may want to talk to people that don't sell many annuities and they want to help find out why and what it might take to get them to recommend the product more. But we have the ability to target on all of those things and more, which makes it easy to find the right people for these projects.
So I think if I were to sort of put a bug into everyone's ear today about understanding insiders, distribution professionals, it's really sort of research 101. When you're doing good research, you really want to try to put yourself in the shoes of the people that you're talking to. And sort of one way that we have developed in order to do that is to really understand motivations behind why these busy, highly compensated professionals might participate in research. And one way that we do this is every insider who participates in our research gets a short report fed back to them with some highlights of findings from the research that they participated in. Why do we do this? These professionals aren't really motivated by the incentives that they receive. They are more motivated by the usefulness of the information that they are getting out of this, the ability to learn and provide input about relevant topics. That really is what resonates with our insiders. Eric does a lot of our in-depth interviews with insiders. And I know, Eric, you've heard some really great anecdotes and commentary from our insiders about how they feel about participating in research.
In fact, I have two today. I did one this morning, I have one more later today, and a whole bunch in the next couple of weeks. And I actually really enjoy talking with these professionals because these are people, as many on this call probably know, this is a difficult career to get into and to be successful. Once you've gotten to that point that you are successful, then it's a much different animal, and they think about their practice much differently than how do I build success because they already have. And so now it's really how can they do better? How can they contribute? And oftentimes when I'm talking with an insider, particularly at the either at the beginning when I thank them for being part of our panel, or at the end when I just remind them they'll be getting a short report, such as what's on the screen here, is they tell me how much they actually enjoy, which is really, we weren't expecting this, but they tell us they really enjoy taking our surveys. They find them interesting. They really enjoy on the occasion, because it's not that often they get invited for an interview, but they really enjoy those conversations. And in either case, they find that just by having these conversations or even taking a survey, they're actually learning something. Um, and it takes them out of their day to day and gives them an opportunity to reflect on their practices, and they really appreciate that opportunity. So it's really interesting, some of the benefits that we certainly know that we needed to give them something back in addition to money, because they appreciate that as well. It's nice to have a little gift card that you can use for something that you weren't expecting. But they're getting a lot of value out of this from a variety of perspectives.
So the other sort of tying to that is, right, our insiders really like doing research when it is a topic that can help them, right? So when we think about distribution professionals, the nice thing when we ask them what they want to learn about from their peers, these are some of the hot topics that resonate with them. But the nice thing is most of the work that we do falls into one of these buckets. So the really sort of value for them in participating is that they, in some ways, we are helping them help you, our clients, because we're helping them do their business better, have conversations with their clients, educate about products, iterate and develop new products and features. So it really is a benefit for them in participating in research. But if you need some ideas, here's some things our insiders really want to know more about.
And it's interesting because historically, what we did is we either tried to find a few questions from the actual project, if it wasn't too proprietary, that we thought they would find interesting, or we would add a few questions if the project was deemed to be too proprietary. But now we're also asking them for the types of things they're looking to learn. And as Lisa just said, we've been fortunate that the types of things we've been including align really nicely with what they're also asking for.
Diana, you had a question.
Yes, thanks for hosting this session. I was wondering, and let me know if you'll get to this later in the segment, but how many individuals are part of this panel? And more specifically, how much has it grown, if at all, since last year?
Thank you. I appreciate that. You segue me very nicely to our next slide. And that was not planted at all. So right now we are at 1900, actually 1902 as of this morning, and growing. We are doing active campaigns right now to grow the panel. We did a really big push in 2022 and 2023. 2024, we went a little bit lighter, and then we were sort of revisiting that. So I believe since 2024, we've grown by about 300. I think it was around 1,600 back in the start of 2024. So that's why we're sort of making a big push in 2025. We've completed 51 projects and are counting that up as we go. We get really strong click-in and response rates from our insiders, and we think that it's because we have been very thoughtful and careful about how we target our engagements with them. We limit the number of engagements that each insider is allowed to be invited to each month, because they are busy. We do understand that, this is not their job. This is something they're doing sort of to further the industry along. But when we take a step back and look at the engagement that we get really strong click-in rates. So when those invitations go out, we see on average about 62% of our insiders click in to try and complete. And then we have varying completion rates. So they do vary because some of our projects are really looking for a needle in the haystack insider. And while we can profile and target insiders fairly granularly, there are some things that we do need to screen for. So that's when we see lower completion rates, is when we have very strict or stringent sort of screener typologies. When we're looking for sort of a broad array of professionals, we typically see completion rates closer to 60 or 70%. And that is valid qualified completes. They pass the screener. On average, our surveys sorry, go ahead.
So if I could just jump in there real quick. So one of the real benefits of having high click-in and high completion rates is that it provides a better experience for the insider, because for most projects, we already know or have a pretty good idea whether someone's going to qualify before we even send them the invitation. So that if they get an invitation, there's a much higher chance that they will actually qualify to complete whatever the exercise is, than if we had simply invited people randomly.
Yeah. On average, our surveys have been about 270. We have done, our largest survey that we've completed was 1,000 completes. The largest IDI project that we did was 31 IDIs. And, I think because we know a lot about our insiders and the engagement is high. To give an example, we recently fielded a project with aiming for 100 survey completes, and we got that completed in 3.5 days. I think the team would probably say like 3.25 days. We do limit the number of engagements that they're invited to, which does mean that our calendar fills up. So we do typically run 4 to 6 projects with our insiders each month. But we are very careful about that scheduling because we want to be very careful with their time. In terms of topics and things that we've talked to our insiders recently about, on the health and benefits side, we've spoken to them about everything from sort of ICRAs and new ways to fund and handle group benefits, to brand studies and B2B brand studies, to product and message testing for benefits products, for RX, PBM products, or health insurance products. And Eric, I don't know if you want to give a flavor of some of the things that we've done on our financial side.
Sure. There's actually some of those same topics are in common. So on the retail financial services side, we do a fair number of brand tracking studies. We do a lot of product development research across annuities, different types of life insurance, whether it's term, IUL, VUL, combination products. We've done surveys of retirement plan sellers. We've done qualitative research on kind of the importance of being independent versus more employed by the firm that they represent. We've done studies among advisors or professionals that are newer in their careers. We do a lot of retirement income research. We do more process oriented, like the whole experience of submitting business and getting through underwriting or even new business for something that's not underwritten. I just want to go back to something you said a minute ago, Lisa, about the fielding. So we just came out of field this week, and it only took us 2 weeks to get a sample of 275 insiders on a pretty specific topic. And we have some information in our intake survey that would help us target them. But what we also do, and because we've done so many projects with this group, and as Lisa said, and counting, we have the ability to go back to prior screening questions and other questions and surveys to target people. And so for this particular survey, there were some questions from some other projects that allowed us to better target this audience. So we could get to them much quicker. And that 2-week time frame for a very narrow audience, I think was pretty cool.
There's a question in the chat from Melissa. For IDIs, what's the percentage we need to over recruit to show? Melissa, I'll be honest with you. We don't typically have no shows from our insiders. So if we are targeting an N equals 10 IDI project, we screen and schedule 10. Now, because we own and manage this asset in-house, we always have the ability to sort of have a few extra in the queue, but we typically don't have no-shows, which is really great and refreshing. And then the other thing I'll mention there is, this is our internal asset. We're not partnering or releasing out this asset to any other sample providers. So it's really something that we've tried to curate and handle in a white glove approach for access to these professionals for our clients only. So we're not sort of, you wouldn't go out to some sample provider out there in the world and be able to find insiders embedded in that sample, because sort of this is we're trying to make sure that this is a very thoughtful experience, both for our clients, but also for our insiders.
If I could just add to the answer to Melissa's question, when we get someone who doesn't show up, it's typically not because they decided to blow it off. It's because either they were on a client call or they forgot. And usually, if we just give them a phone call at that point, they answer and say, "Oh yeah," and then we do the interview, or we might have to reschedule. But those situations are actually pretty rare. And just by comparison, we often, for some projects, we'll use clients sample, whether it's for a survey or for doing interviews. And I recall a couple of projects where we used client sample for doing in-depth interviews, and there were lots of no-shows. It was like night and day comparison, that we had to go back to the well a few times to get the number of people who wanted to interview.
Yeah, I know we're at overtime, but I'm happy to stay on and answer questions. Diana.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering my last question. I was just wondering if you had any recommendations on best use cases. So for example, is it most useful for new product development, VOC, other kind of areas?
Great question.
Yes.
I think all of it. I think I will be very transparent in saying that I think if you were looking to do some sort of very frequent tracker and ensure that we weren't getting duplicate response. So let's say a tracker where you were fielding every month and you did not want anybody exactly the same to repeat each month, that's probably not the best use case. But if you were looking for a quarterly tracker, which we do, or a couple times a year, that would be fine as well, and in addition to qual.
But to your question, Diana, we do quite a bit of product development research, both with qual and quant, but probably more so qual. We even have a really nice methodology that is called the Product Marketing Lab, that is fantastic for, particularly for a product that has some new moving parts or has a little bit of is new or different in some way. That gives a lot of insight very quickly, and for not a very large price tag, relatively speaking.
So I know we're at time. We are happy to take additional questions. If you want to shoot over an email to us, you can find us on the web. We have all our coffee breaks at our on our coffee break hub. And you can also give us a follow on LinkedIn. We put lots of announcements out there, including, shameless plug, this being our 40th anniversary. We've got lots of special webinars and content coming out this year to celebrate those 40 years of health and wealth research. So thank you so much for coming today. Appreciate it, and have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.